Hey, what is up, everybody? This is JP, your online personal trainer, and today's podcast episode is the Exercise Science Podcast number 3, and that is 7 signs to tell whether or not your personal trainer is bad. And on the title, I put personal trainer, but this can apply to a strength coach or anyone that's a one-on-one trainer in regards to fitness. But first things first, if you guys haven't heard of Patreon is a way to support your creators and the people that you follow on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, anyone that creates content that you follow that person and you watch their content. And Patreon is a way that you can support them with money or funding, but in return, it's not donations. It's a way that you can support them and get rewards in return. So if you go to patreon.com/JP Fitness. Again, that's patreon.com/JP Fitness. I have 5 different tiers of rewards available for anyone that wants to be involved in my fitness community, and those rewards are by far worth it. So again, go ahead and check that out at patreon.com/JP Fitness. And I also have all my social media linked on there as well. That's my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, my YouTube, and my podcast page if you guys want to check that out too. Again, like I said earlier, today's podcast episode is going to be on 7 signs that your personal trainer is bad, or that maybe you want to get a personal trainer and there's one that you're looking at. Maybe you've seen him or her in a gym and you've seen how they train people, and you're kind of questioning whether or not they're good. Because again, if you're looking for a personal trainer or a strength coach or whatever it may be, you obviously, that's not your niche, that's not your realm. So it's hard for you to determine whether or not that trainer is good, or that's maybe someone that you should go to. But again, if you follow these tips that I'm going to give you, and these steps and things that maybe clues you could look out for to determine whether or not they're bad, you'll definitely be able to figure that out yourself. And again, if you're a trainer yourself, maybe these are things that you can avoid that, will help you make you a better trainer in the long run. All right, the first one is if they never write or record anything down. I see this a lot. I don't know why. I don't know how. Honestly, don't really know how trainers can train people without writing anything down. It's just to me, it kind of seems really hard because I would forget especially if you're working with a lot of clients, I would forget what weight a client was using, what exercises they're doing. And again, usually there's a lot of things tied to this one, but again, it's if you never see him or her write something down. So if you have a trainer currently, or if you see someone with a trainer, like a friend, or if you just see a trainer in a gym training someone else and you never see them write or record anything down, like you never, let's just say they finish a session with somebody and they don't record the session somehow, whether that be the person's weight or they're not. Again, it's not necessarily writing down. It could be putting something in a tablet or just recording something in general. Then that's kind of usually a bad sign. Again, that means they're probably just winging it when it comes to the weight that the person's using. They're not recording. Maybe this week the client had a bench press of 185 and that was at a RPE of an 8. And then this week or the next week for the same amount of reps, the RPE was like a 7, which means that for that individual, the exercise is easier. So in that case, it would be wise to, we'll write that down and say the RPE is now 7 this week, when last week it seemed like maybe an 8 or an 8.5, which means they're getting stronger, they're getting better, or, just so you can record to move up weight later on. But again, they should be writing something down or recording something or acknowledging something. Again, I'm not saying that if you see a trainer and you don't physically see them do it, that doesn't mean that they're not doing it. But usually there are trainers that I know for an absolute fact that I see them have a client, then the next week, and again, I'm not nosy, I don't involve myself in anyone's business, but I see them have a client, and then the next week comes around and they even acknowledge or ask the client, oh, what weight did you use last time? Or something of that sort, which again, that's ridiculous. That should be the personal trainer's job. It should not be the client's job to remember what weight they used or what they did last time, or what exercises they did, or how many the reps they got on something. So that's something that I would look out for. I would keep an eye out for that, because they should be recording this stuff. So again, if they're never writing or recording anything down, and you have to be a little bit careful of that, because just because you don't see them write or record something now doesn't mean that they don't do it maybe in their office or in the back, or maybe when they're on their phone, because everyone uses their phone these days, that it could be on a note app that they're using. Like I use the Evernote app. I really like that app. Again, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I really like the app. And that's something that I might use in the future, so they could be recording it on an app. So I'm not saying jump to conclusions or call anyone out, but just keep an eye out for that. And again, if it's your trainer, you probably know whether or not they're writing something down. So that's usually a bad sign. That's a bad sign when it comes to a trainer or a strength coach or something. I really doubt they're going to be able to remember everyone's weight unless they're only training you, which is 99.9% of the time not the case. All right, the second sign that a personal trainer is bad or just not a good sign in general is if they do anything but instruct you or leave you alone during your sets. And again, this is a big pet peeve of mine. Even when I'm not training someone or someone's not training me or vice versa. I mean, I'm the personal trainer. I'm a personal trainer. But basically, regardless of who's training who, I personally think it's just kind of rude to talk to people during their sets, and it's even more rude when it's your trainer doing it. And the thing is, when people go to a personal trainer, they don't know any better. They're going to a personal trainer because the personal trainer knows what they're doing. Like me, I think I use this in the first Exercise Science podcast, episode number 1. I don't really know much about cars. So if I went to a car dealership or a mechanic or whatever, and I talked to them and I said I had this problem with my car, and they told me something's wrong with it or not, and they sounded confident, I guess I'm just gonna assume that they're right, because again, I don't have any basis to question whether or not they're wrong. Same thing with the client. I mean, they might not know the importance of focusing on a set due to injury prevention, and an increase in performance when you're focused on your set. So if you have a client, or if you see someone being trained, or if you want to get a trainer, and they're always talking to their client during their set about some random thing that's not the set. I mean, again, I said the step number 2, or the bad sign number 2, is if they do anything but instruct you or leave you alone. If they're talking to the client but they're instructing them, that's different. But I've seen all the time trainers just talk to them about family matters, football game that they've seen, something that they did over the weekend, what they did between the last 2 times they've seen them, or just random things. It's kind of it's a little bit, again, I guess you could say I'm triggered a little bit, because it triggers me a little bit. I just feel like trainers should if you're not instructing them, let them focus on their set. And again, I think that sometimes they just need to focus. What if, for example, what if they're going for a really heavy set, a PR or something, and you've been instructing them? When they're going for a PR, that's not the time to instruct them during their set. Someone who's going for a PR, and just for people who don't know, PR means personal record. If someone's going for, let's just say, a personal record on their squat, that's the last time you want to be instructing them. That really is. They should already have everything ingrained in their memory, because if they don't know how to, for example, perform a squat, they don't know how to perform a squat before they're going for a PR and it's heavy weight, then you pretty much failed at your job. I mean, by that time they should know how to squat. So, and then there are just other times where, you taught your client well that you're just going to let them focus on the set. You shouldn't be talking every single set. Sometimes they just need to focus. But there are some sets that you do need to adjust them, cue them, do things properly. And then when you teach them something new, obviously you're going to not be at a super heavy weight, because if it's new, you don't want to give them a super heavy weight. Unless it's an extremely similar movement, like maybe an incline bench press, or a flat bench press to an incline bench press. But if it's something new, again, if they're doing anything but instructing you, or motivating you, or doing something that's related to the set, or leaving you alone, it's wrong. So if they're talking to you about other things that aren't exercise related to you during your set, it's wrong. Again, it's just a bad thing to do. It increases injury risk. It decreases the client's performance during the set if they're having to think about what you're saying. If they're having to answer if you're asking them a question that doesn't have to do with the set, and anything, it's just, there's no point in doing it. It's not the time to do it. If you're going to do it between the sets during the rest period. And even then, sometimes you want to use the rest period for more exercise stuff, whether that be have them stretch the muscle group that they're not working today. Maybe give them tips and techniques to work on that for them. But again, if it's the off time where they already have their workout program, they already have their exercise down, and then the next maybe exercise is something extremely similar, just slightly changed. And it doesn't need, like you said, you looked at their first set, their form's good, everything's going good, maybe you want to talk to them a little bit during the set. Again, that's up to you at that point, but make sure everything else is in check, and just let's teach them what they need to do during the set, or let them work the set. That's just a really wrong time to talk to somebody about random this or random that. Again, it's just bad personal training right there. All right, sign number 3 that you have that's bad. Again, this can apply to a personal trainer, that for any personal trainer. I'm just going to say that a few times, just so you know, this could be someone else that's being trained or someone that you're trying to be a trainer. But bad sign number 3 is if they give everyone the same workout. And again, some of these are more obvious. For a good trainer, this may seem really obvious, but it happens so often. That's why I feel like I had to put this in here. I see it all the time. It's just extremely, it's obvious, but I see trainers give people the same exact workout, the same exact exercises. I've seen trainers give a lady who I know for a fact is at least 50, and that's being extremely generous. She's probably somewhere closer to 60 to 70, an arm workout that she gives a 25-year-old man. It's the same workout, the exact same thing. With my own eyes, I've seen it. And it just kind of baffles me. It's like, okay, if everyone should not be given the same workout. You might have similar exercises as someone. I mean, it's really hard to believe that you and someone else have the same experience working out. You guys don't have any problems with any different exercises. Two individuals, so they have to have the same experience. They have to have the same injury background, like they don't have any different injuries from each other. They should roughly be around the same age, because again, someone who's a little bit older, you might have to take things a little bit different. They should have the same exact goals. Just a lot of things play into whether or not someone would have the same workout program. Like I said, yes, there are going to be similar exercises. Yes, some people might be around those same parameters, but it's really hard to think that two people would have the exact same thing. It's just hard to believe in general. And if you're going to a trainer and you see that they give everyone the exact same thing, don't go to them. Do not go to them. I mean, the only exception would be like a boot camp, because boot camps, again, if you don't have money and you just want to get a good workout in, boot camp, like if you're going to some type of boot camp, that might be a good start if you don't have a lot of money. But it's just, to see continued results, you need progressive overload. You need an individual training program for somebody. That's the best way to see results, because again, with the boot camps, I mean, like, I'm not trying to harp on it, but I mean, those might be the exception, that everyone has the same workout. But even then, like, you can't gauge everyone's results. What if it's too easy for someone else? What if it's too hard for someone else? And you may say, well, with boot camps, you pick different weights. You go get your own weight. Yeah, but that's still not enough. There's still not enough variation between people. Like, I've seen boot camps where some people look like they're struggling, and then some people look like it doesn't seem super hard, even with the exercise that you're doing. Or sometimes the volume is just limited, because you can't, with boot camps, everyone's working out the same. Yeah, you might have higher volume from picking different weights, but other than that, you're going to have a limit to how many, like, weight, like how much volume you could do with like dumbbells and stuff like that. Because again, they're limited by grip strength, core strength, and certain things like that. So again, for the most part, 99% of the time, or most of the time, you should not be having, a trainer should not be giving the same workouts to everybody. I mean, that's just horrible personal training right there, just in general. All right, bad sign number 4 is if they don't apply anything new over a long period of time. For example, you train with personal trainer, Joe. I'm just going to put a random name out there. I'm not talking about it. It could be Joe Schmo, whatever you want to say. And let's just say everything's good. And then you have progressive overload. You're doing everything good. But let's just say you never, ever do anything new. You just never. Nothing's ever taught. It's the same thing from the month that you see them. Let's just say you stick with them for 2 or 3 years, because sometimes that happens. You like your trainer, or you know someone who's been with the trainer for so long, and maybe that's why you want to get with them, because your friend has been with the trainer for so long. But they do the same things all the time. They just never teach you nothing new. That's bad, because one of the biggest things that a personal trainer should be doing, or again, this can apply, again, like I said earlier, this can apply to anybody, a strength coach, an MMA coach, could be anybody. They should be having continuing education. This field is growing so fast. 10 years ago, the 8 to 12 rep range, this magic bodybuilding range, was 10 to 15 years ago. That was the shit. That's what everyone wanted to do, and that's what, if you're a bodybuilder, you wanted to gain muscle. How dare you go below 5 reps? That's not how it is these days. Especially with more and more research coming out. It's just, if you train basically between 60 to 100% of your 1 rep max, and you get adequate volume, you're seeing progressive overload. You obviously have those key factors in there. You're gonna gain muscle. So the thing is that we're learning so much. Like I said, the 8 to 12 rep range was magic 10 to 15 years ago. There's fad diets, this or that, weird things, occlusion training. Things come out that's like, okay, well, this is new. This isn't new. This was kind of a myth. This was more pseudoscience. So you got to keep up. And a personal trainer, a strength coach, whoever it may be, whatever aspect of the fitness realm that you're in, you should be having continuing education, and that continuing education should be put into obviously the workout plans to your clients, to whoever that you're going to train. So if you're working with someone, or you know someone that works with someone and they're doing the same thing, even if, again, surprisingly everything else is good, I'm not, again, no one's perfect here. Nobody's perfect. And I'll go over that at the end of the podcast, but nobody's perfect. But that is a big factor. And it may not be, like I said, I'm not trying to hate on anybody. It may be that just you see the personal trainer and you just don't think that he's good enough. And if you don't think that, if you want to see optimal results, especially since personal trainers, they can charge a hefty amount per hour. And again, I love the field. Obviously, I think a lot of people should get trainers. I think the field should be booming a lot more than it already is, because a lot of people just don't get that it can get kind of complicated when you're making a workout program, or when it comes to exercise form. And when people say they learn off of YouTube, that doesn't cut it. There's so much like bullshit on YouTube that if you follow YouTube, you're bound to make at least a good chunk and handful of mistakes. So again, if you're a trainer, if you get with one and they do the same thing that they did on day one with barely or no changes and exercise variation or new techniques or new information that they learned or told you about, then that's just a bad sign. All right, sign number 5 is, and this is probably my favorite one on here, and it applies a lot to this industry, is, and this could be taken a few different ways, but I'll explain it, is if they never say that they don't know, or that the underlying mechanisms are unknown at this time. And what I mean by that is, clients, a lot of people are going to ask personal trainer questions, especially ones that harp so much about them being a good trainer. And I definitely try to do this. I see a lot of good trainers who try to do this. And shouts out to Greg Knuckles. He put a post on this, and I really liked the post. And it came down to is a lot of people are afraid of being wrong, and they have this ego that they have to fill, especially people in the fitness industry, and especially, that's everyone in the fitness industry, people who just work at, who aren't trainers, but especially trainers. They're just afraid to say, I don't know. We don't know the exact causes at this time. And what I mean by the bad sign number 5 is, if you're a client and you're always asking your personal trainer questions, and they always have an answer. And by always have an answer, I mean they're always telling you that there's like a definitive, they're talking in absolutes. Oh no, this is the problem, that's it. This is the problem, that's it. This is the problem, that's it. Because it's kind of surprising, but personal trainers get asked a lot of questions from clients, and a lot of them can be outside of that scope of practice. Like, oh, you're training with a personal trainer, or a friend is, and your shoulder starts to hurt. And again, a personal trainer who's just done a 3-month, 2-month certification or whatever, or maybe a weekend certification, which is even worse. My shoulder hurts. Why does it hurt? And then they come up with some bullshit ass reason as to why your shoulder hurts, when that is by far not within their scope of practice, not even close. They should even be talking about shoulder injuries in general. Now, if, for example, if you, let's just say that exact same scenario, a weekend certification trainer training a client, the client's shoulder hurts, and then the client asks them, oh, my shoulder's hurting when I do this, what is it? And then they say, oh, it has to be a bicep tendonitis. Yep, you're doing the presses, we won't do that no more, we won't do that anymore, but sure, that's what it is, And then the client, obviously they don't know any better. They think, oh, this is the trainer, I need to listen to them. That whole scenario right there is bullshit. The trainer should have never said that. They should have never even made a better response would have been, there could be a multitude of things. You are doing a pressing movement. It's not within my scope of practice to diagnose any injuries, but if I had to make an educated guess, it could be shoulder impingement, bicep tendonitis, or it could be some other underlying issue. You should probably check with your doctor or see a physical therapist, because that's just past my knowledge. That would be a lot better of an answer, 100 times better of an answer. You're basically saying, I'm not 100% sure. It could be this, but you should check with someone who's within the scope of practice. That's a very smart answer. That's a very wise answer. Because again, it doesn't mean that you can't give some type of educated guess. You just got to let them know that that's not what's your field. I mean, there's things that personal trainers do better than a physical therapist, But obviously, a physical therapist, a lot more schooling, a lot more, a way bigger knowledge base than just a certified personal trainer. And I'm not talking shit on certified personal trainers, because I'm a certified personal trainer, and I'm currently in school to do more, to get a degree. But that's all I am right now. That's the only, I guess you could say, title I really have by my name. But so just don't be afraid to say that, oh, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or the underlying mechanisms are unknown. And that post that I was talking about Greg Knuckles put on his Facebook, he was, I can't remember the exact wording was, usually when people make a claim, a lot of the times it could be right. Well, ketogenic diets may help some people lose weight, some people, because, and then they say the reason why ketogenic diets help people lose weight, or something of that nature, or getting more like, here's another one. Someone may say, or personal trainer may say, getting more volume causes hypertrophy because, and then they go into some elaborate reason and they make it sound like it's a certainty or it's an absolute. Like, I think the example uses, getting more volume causes hypertrophy because of the increased anabolic hormone response post-workout. Yes, anabolic hormones that we release may do impact weight training to a high degree. The endocrine system is the second control system of our body. It basically tells our body what to do. But the point is that when people start saying because and then they start talking after, yes, increasing volume from one segment of a training cycle to a next is sure to induce gains if everything else is held constant or everything else is proper, like your diet and your sleep. But the exact specific pinpointed mechanism as to why that happens, it may be a little bit more complicated. So saying a because and then talking in absolutes about certain things, it doesn't always need to happen. I'm not saying someone can't know something for certain. If you have a study to back up what you're claiming, or maybe some peer-reviewed evidence, proof of some sort, then yeah, go ahead. Be confident what you're saying. I'm not saying don't be confident, but it's the fact that, like I said, a lot of trainers don't like to say I don't know. They like to have an answer for everything, and it's really hard just to say I don't know, because you kind of make you may think, well, my client's going to think I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, no. If you're really worried about that and your client questions that, well, just tell your client. You could say that if you have a trainer, tell your client this. If you have a trainer that gives you an answer to everything and they never say I don't know, that means that they think that they're right on everything. And if they think that they're right on everything, that means that all this new text or evidence or information that comes out from new studies, they're telling me that they knew all that? No, they didn't. It's impossible. So you're telling me that they're feeding you information and they're never evolving. They're never getting better. Honestly, what that tells me is they don't have any continuing education. Because I don't believe the same things now. I don't believe the same things now that I did 3 years ago or 2 years ago when whatever stage I was at in my personal training career. So you learn tons and tons of information if you're just keeping up with again, just knowledge. I mean, you just again, watching videos, reading texts, reading books, things like that. Just follow. Maybe you have a subscription to, like, maybe the Strength and Conditioning Journal from the NSCA. I'm not sure if that's the exact title, but things like that. Just don't be afraid to say I don't know, and basically stay humble and know your role and know how much you know. All right. Bad sign number 6 for personal trainers, strength coaches, anyone's out there is, and this is more obvious, but I'll get into, because this is kind of like a touchy subject, but I'll get into what I think is correct, and is if they don't work out themselves. Now, this is obvious to a certain extent. You may be thinking, oh, no shit, if a trainer doesn't work out, I'm not going to go to him. He must be a shit trainer. But it goes a little bit further than that. For example, if someone, and I'm not trying to talk shit on this person at all. I respect him highly. And again, I'm talking about someone else's ignorance. If someone's seen a powerlifter like Brian Shaw, and then they seen him walking around and said, oh, and a lot of people, they get things confused. This is why I feel like people need trainers. They seen Brian Shaw and they had no idea who he was. And someone said, oh, you're going to teach me. And someone says, well, this guy's going to teach you to get stronger. And the person said, well, he kind of seems like he has a belly on him. He doesn't really look that strong. He looks big, but he doesn't look strong. I mean, because when you first look at Brian Shaw, let's just say you have no idea about exercise. You have no idea about strongman or nothing. And you don't know that he's done World's Strongest Man. He's won that. He's won the Arnold Classic, the strength competition. You don't know that the guy, you just don't know none of that about him. But if you're like, okay, well, he's going to teach you to be strong, man. He's going to teach you to do heavy weighted carries. He's going to teach you to, throw stuff, pick things up real heavy. He's just going to teach you to be as strong as you can be. And someone was ignorant and thought that maybe like a bodybuilder look was strong and said, well, I don't think that he really doesn't know what he's talking about. In that sense, what I'm trying to say is there's certain things that people judge or gauge people by, and whether or not they have the right to be able to talk about what they talk about. So yes, you should work out yourself. I feel like trainers don't work out. And if you don't work out at all, or if your just workouts are so weak, like you just barely touch weights just to have that credibility by your name, well, I don't work out, then I feel like that's bad. But, and I know this podcast is about things that trainers do wrong, but I just have to say that if someone doesn't do something 100%, like 100 million%, they don't eat perfectly clean, and they don't work out 6 days a week, every single week, and they're absolute, like, I feel like, yes, as a trainer, me, I work out 5 days a week nearly every single week. Maybe every 4, 5, 6 weeks I'll miss a day or something, or I'll push it off to a different day down the week. But generally I'm like 90%, 95%, plus I'm extremely consistent. That's for me. But if someone's not 100% on the workouts, 100% on the diet, or if one day on the weekend you catch your personal trainer drinking a beer and you're like, oh my God, he's a shit trainer, I seen him drink it, that's bad. You can't hold someone to that standard, and everybody's different. A trainer can still be a really good trainer and not have that exact same goals as someone else. Maybe someone has that deep will and drive to be the very best bodybuilder in the world, and if that's the case, they're going to have to watch their diet, and their diet's going to have to be nearly impeccable. Now, someone could be as deep-willed and drive like Brian Shaw, and then he said multiple times that he's basically ate when he felt like he wanted to puke. He's ate to the point where he hated eating. He does not like eating. And that's because, it's so much easier to get stronger and gain muscle and just to be as strong as you possibly can be when you're in a caloric surplus. So he would do whatever it takes to be the best. Now, what I'm trying to say is certain people will do different goals. Now, let's just say you have someone who's very experienced, but maybe they're at the time or they're at the point where they train mildly hard, they eat mildly good, they're not perfect, but they know how to do these things properly. Then I still think that you can't hold it against them to not train you very good. So basically, don't judge someone for not putting in every single thing perfectly or doing everything perfectly, because that's not a proper way to judge it. Now, if someone tries to use the excuse, well, I know what I'm talking about, I went to school, but I never work out and I eat like complete dog shit, then I'm going to say, okay, well, that's bullshit, because there are certain things that you learn when you do work out. There's certain things with like experience, like when you have a heavy weights on your back during a squat or you're doing a heavy bench press, there's certain things that you can't learn from reading a book. Yeah, someone can tell you, but you just don't know. And then on top of that, it's just perspective. Like everyone learns a little bit differently in like the bench press or squat, or has different unique tips. So if you never, ever work out and you're trying to tell someone to work out, you can't give them those tips from your experience. So again, basically, if they don't work out themselves, that's bad. But just because they're not, if they're not doing 6 days a week, 2-hour workouts, or maybe let's just say you're just a genetically strong person and you've worked out pretty good, and you just have genetics on your side and you're doing real good and you've worked out for years and you want to fine tune your program, and let's just say you're bench pressing 450 and you have a trainer who bench presses 350, but he has shit genetics and he had to take years and years to build up to that point, and you have this mindset where he's weaker than me, so I'm not going to listen to him. That's not necessarily correct. He might have worked from, let's just say when he first started, his max was 100 and he worked up to 350. And let's just say you started, your max was 225 or 275 or something, because you're just a freak genetics or something. Then that means, honestly, he's better than you, because he improved 250 pounds and let's just say you only improved 150. You have everything on your side and you didn't improve as much as him. That's someone you probably should have listened to. So again, that's just take that for what it is. All right, bad sign number 7 is, and this is kind of tied to number 1 a little bit, this is kind of tied to number 2, but it is different, is they have their attention elsewhere. So let's just say number 2, I said that they should either instruct you or they should leave you alone during your set and nothing else. They shouldn't talk to you or bother you or do anything else but those 2 things, or motivate you or some other, something related to the set. Now, what they also shouldn't be doing is they shouldn't be kind of to the side talking to a friend or on their phone. It bugs the shit out of me when I see a trainer on their phone when their client's doing a set. Again, I'm not trying to nitpick, and I don't ever tell anyone anything because it's not my business. I don't want to be the gym police. I think that's annoying as fuck too. But I still feel like that you shouldn't be on your phone, especially when you have a client. And the excuse of, they know what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. I still think if you're not saying anything, you should still watch them, because they can hurt themselves. Sometimes they need a spot. Even the best of us sometimes have a mishap or something, or we just can't get, sometimes we just need help. Or maybe they just have a bad set. Maybe they do so good, or maybe they're just that one set, their mind's wandering because they're having problems at home and they didn't tell you. And they just have some weird shit form that day. Because they do it all the time good doesn't mean that time that's not good. So it's good to not have your attention somewhere else. Again, this is going to increase performance, and this is also going to prevent injury. You just need to make sure you're paying attention, and this goes for every type of workout. For example, during weightlifting, obviously you can injure a joint, drop a weight on you, have bad range of motion, need a spot, anything like that, or just they're not performing correctly. And then And then, or it could be during cardio. What if you have a new client and, like, let's just say, obviously, if you're a personal trainer, or if you're in the some of the fitness industry in some way, you should have a CPR certification. What if you have a client that's relatively new, and maybe the first day they seem pretty good, and it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be? Because let's just say you're a good trainer, and you're not going to push a new client who's unhealthy super hard during cardio. But let's just say the second day they're like, okay, well, the first day was pretty good, and then let's just say the second day they forgot to eat as much as they should have. It's a little bit hotter. They didn't drink as much water, and on top of that, they thought, well, last time was easy, so I'll push myself harder. And let's just say you're not paying attention, and let's just say it could be like, I'm just picking realistic scenarios. A lot of times I've seen people just forget to eat, or they forget to drink that much water that day, and it's a hot day outside. What if you're training outside and then you're not really paying attention, or you're just like on your phone or something, and then they're having signs of, maybe they're about to pass out because they could go into a seizure because it's too hot, not enough water, they're deconditioned, it's only their second workout, and what do you know, they're not feeling good, and then they just fall on the ground, and you weren't realizing the signs. Maybe you could have stopped it earlier if you were paying attention. Maybe you've seen that they were looking pale, or that they were kind of shaking a little bit, or they just seemed kind of like they were acting funny or incoherent. Again, that could be someone's life on the line because you wanted to go on your phone, which is pretty pathetic. So again, pay attention. Don't have your attention somewhere else, not on your phone, not talking to a friend. And again, I'm not trying to nitpick. If someone walks by, you're like, hey, what's up, man? And you talk for 5 seconds. Oh, you're doing good. All right, cool. That's it. Or just someone tries to talk to you, you say, oh, hold on for a second. Wait till there's a rest period. I'm not trying to be nitpicky, and I'm not saying that it has to be like militaristic with your style of training. You don't have to be on them every second, like eyeballing them like a hawk. But I mean, you need to be responsible, and you need to not be negligent. All right, that was the last bad sign that I would have for a personal trainer. The last thing that I would say is just use your judgment. Take all these signs and kind of, again, if they're maybe not the best at one sign, let's just say they're good at all signs 1 through 6. But let's just say for sign number 7, they do their friend comes in at the same time that you're working out, and then they talk for like 5 minutes or something. But let's just say everything else is good. That during the set they cue you. That's the only person that they talk to. They don't give you the same workout as someone else. They give you your own individualized workout program. They record everything. Nobody's perfect. Again, I'm not saying nitpick at somebody, but I mean, I'm not lying, man. A lot of these things, they come in hand. So that's why you need just usually one happens. It usually happens with something else, because it's really hard to find a trainer that talks all the time to someone and ignoring their clients, but then they do everything else right. It usually doesn't go like that. Usually there's multiple things. If they're talking to someone else, I guarantee you they usually don't want you during your sets. They most likely don't write or record anything down, and they just do a lot of things that like kind of go back and forth with these steps. But again, those are the signs for finding out whether or not a trainer is good. And again, just use your judgment. But if you like this podcast, please subscribe to my podcast page. You could check it out on my Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/JP Fitness, I have the link on there right on the front page to my podcast, my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, and my YouTube. So wherever you're hearing this at, if you want to go follow me on any of those social media platforms, please do so. I'm always posting up there. If you have a quick question that you want me to answer, whether that be about my Patreon or any of my podcasts, please let me do so. Again, and then if you want to support, please support me on my Patreon. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.